Zach's slinging bikes and riding at the same time. He's a talented man.
All right, do you fall between bike sizes? Say medium and large, large and extra large. You want to know what size bike you should buy? We're here to help you find that out. I personally fall between a large and an extra large in most bikes. So we took two of the exact same bike. We have the Ibis XE, we've got a large and an extra large. We both took a lap, switched bikes, took another lap.
During our testing that we did, it was just such a stark difference at times. But you've got to find what works for you and your riding style and your riding type. That's where we're hoping to be able to help you guys out a little bit in finding the right size for you.
Yeah, because it's not just your height or
Yes.
your size of you as a human being. It's how do you ride that bike? Where do you ride that bike?
So I've been riding for a really, really long time at this point.
Velociraptors were still?
Yes.
Yes, trail
friendly
hazard,
ones.
major trail hazard.
Oh yeah, they just jump out. So for the years and years that I've been riding, for a lot of them, I was going on the smaller bike between like a large and an extra large. I'd put a little longer stem on it. I'd have the saddle clear up in the air, and I thought it was going to be better. It was going to be more playful. It was going to be more responsive, and it was. But I found out over the years that really I am not a playful rider. I like to blast through rock gardens. I like to go fast. Going with that bigger bike really helped me to take advantage of the things that I do well. So I'm able to hold that speed better. I'm able to lift up and kind of just blast through a rock garden better and feel more confident doing it at the same time. Where the smaller one just really didn't give me that feel, even though I thought it would be cool to be that guy who hops around and jumps off everything, and I'm just not.
So that is something you need to take into account. It's not just your physical size, it's how you like to ride that bike. And I would bet 90% of us, especially those who think they're a playful rider, maybe aren't as playful as they might think they are. So when I picture a playful rider, I picture Josh Bryceland. I picture that 50-to-1 crew. Like, those guys are playful riders. They're constantly jumping, spinning their bikes. They're doing tricks all day long. I think most people would probably benefit more from the effects of a larger frame, getting a little bit more stability, getting a little bit more forgiveness, than they would from the smaller frame that's a little more maneuverable, a little more agile. I've never crashed more than when I rode a frame that was too small for me. That was like every ride I would blow up catastrophically, and it's just because that sweet spot is a little too small and you just have to be on it always. All right, so we found a couple obvious differences. Obviously, one bike is bigger than the other. That's just how that works. On the bigger size frame, you have more of a sweet spot, I think, where you're balanced and centered on the bike between the wheels, and that sweet spot is bigger on the bigger frame. You jump to the smaller frame, it gets a little more maneuverable, but your sweet spot also shrinks. And when that sweet spot shrinks, you've got to really be on it, really bring your A game to make sure you stay in the sweet spot, because bad things happen when you don't.
That smaller bike, you have to be a little more precise on it, a little more dialed into that center, but it does give that little quicker handling, little snappier handling as well.
So some of the less obvious differences we found were the extra large was faster.
Oh, easily.
So when I was behind on the large, Zach would just start walking away from me on that. I couldn't keep up. I was having to pedal, and Zach was just coasting. I thought Zach was just faster than me, because he is. Once we switched bikes, I was able to hold Zach's wheel, no problem. So he was slower on the large and I was faster on the extra large. So I would say in the majority of places, the extra large was faster than the large.
There were moments though that the large was faster. I mean, getting through that tight switchback where you really could get into it. You know, maybe coming out of that tight switchback too, where you could throw a few pedal strokes in and get just a little more snap out of it. It was quicker there. But to me, it's more of the smaller bike was quicker, but the bigger bike was faster. One of the less obvious things and less intuitive things that we've found in corners, that smaller bike really does allow you to get through them quick, but let's say there's some rocks and roots or whatever in the middle of the corner, you're really gonna have to be precise to kind of get through those. With the bigger bike, I think you can go in it with more confidence. You can go into it with maybe a little bit more speed, because you have that more room for error. I think a lot of people look when sizing up that they're worried about being able to get that bike around a switchback, being able to get that bike around a corner. It's a longer bike, it's gonna be harder. Modern geometry is really going to help with that. Those steeper seat tube angles, the offsets on the fork. If you get into that corner and you learn to ride that corner maybe just a little more aggressively, maybe just a little quicker, you're going to be able to get through that corner just fine. And I think it's something that is just not needed to be worried about as much as some people do.
Yeah, maybe people blow that out of proportion. You know, it's really not that difficult to do. And if you're leaning the bike how you should instead of steering the bike, it's not a huge difference, to be honest. We did our very best to match the handlebar height as best we could on each bike. I mean, you're limited by how tall your head tube is and kind of the geometry of the bike, but we did our best. But even on that smaller bike, I felt like the handlebars were below my knees, that I was grabbing very, very low, which in turn kind of pulled my weight further forward, which, you know, you get on more technical, more difficult terrain, and that might get a little bit sketchy.
A little less confident feeling.
For sure. And you can adjust with riser bars and moving your stem up and down on your steer tube, but eventually you're gonna run out of room to do that.
One thing that you could really look at is kind of your body type as well. Conor and I are both rather long legs, short torso. That taller head tube, that taller stack height on the bigger bike really can help to get us in a little bit more natural, a little bit more comfortable position. And then we're able to compensate for the length with some adjustments on the bike that on the bigger bike I feel are more beneficial to ride handling, to riding style.
Let's say you're on an extra large and it maybe feels a hair too big. You can adjust for that by scooting your saddle forward on the rails and putting a shorter stem on. And like Zach was saying, both of those things probably benefit the handling on that bike. You know, you get the shorter stem, you get a little more responsive handling, you scoot your weight forward and it's effectively making your seat tube steeper, which I don't think many people are going to complain about. Making a bigger bike feel just a little bit smaller is, I think, easier than making a small bike feel bigger, and maybe not easier, but more beneficial to the handling.
Yeah, positive handling traits. So not only does handling really come into play, but body comfort can really play into that as well. There's people who have long legs, short torso, like I do, like Conor does. There's people who have very long torso, short legs, and really that can play into the fit. You want to be able to make sure that you're comfortable, that you're not too scrunched up, that you're not flexing your back weird, because that can really play into it. You can also make sure that you're not too stretched out. It's affecting your neck that way, really making you uncomfortable on a long ride. So there is a limit, I think, to how far you can go as far as sizing up, sizing down, depending on what you like to do. So I really thought these tests were just really beneficial to me to be able to nail down in my head, you know, what's the benefits one way or the other. And it became really quickly obvious to me that I prefer the extra large. It was just more stable, it was faster, I felt more comfortable on it. I hopped onto the large and it was fun. I mean, it was quick. It was amazing how different the two bikes felt to me. And I enjoyed it for that, but it just, for me and my riding style, it so quickly became obvious that extra large, going with the bigger bike, was the better way for me to go.
I almost always ride XL. I was honestly a little bit scared to ride a large cross-country bike. I thought it was going to be super twitchy and squirrely. And I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. I jumped on it and it felt a little small, but then once I kind of got into it, I was actually really liking the smaller frame. It felt really good and I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. I still think I was maybe faster and more comfortable and I felt more at home on the bigger frame. If I were to buy it, I would probably do that. But the fun factor of the little one was actually kind of nice and refreshing for a change. I don't know if I'd want that every ride, every day, all the time, especially when you start getting into kind of hairy, technical, nasty terrain. But I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. So to answer the question, which size bike should you buy? My advice is always going to be, if you can, sit on both of them. If you can demo, even better.
Absolutely.
If you're just able to do a parking lot ride, that's still better than taking the advice from some Joe Schmo on the internet saying you should go buy a bigger bike. I think most people would benefit more from the larger frame, from more forgiveness, from more stability, than they will the increased agility and increased maneuverability of the smaller frame.
And I totally agree on that one. Really take a moment, consider all the factors, consider your fit, consider how you like to sit on a bike, consider any body limitations, and really consider your riding style. I think that's probably the biggest one that I'd be considering over anything.
There isn't one blanket answer, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, but hopefully this video helped you kind of see the pros and the cons of going up or going down in size. so that you can make a more informed decision. All right, so thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you next time.